All right. Good afternoon, everyone, or good morning, depending when you flew to Singapore and what time zone you feel like you're in. I just got over here from Seoul, and I'm really excited about this conversation. It was excellently curated. As a curator myself of the podcast and Outer Edge, I must say this is a really special group of folks that have been doing things on the branding side for quite a long time and have a lot of experience. So we're just going to jump right in to the conversation. And the question I have for all you guys from looking at your websites and getting a sense of your brands is that you've approached how you're using Web3 and how front and center it is differently. And I think that contrast is a healthy conversation to have. So I'd love to sort of start with what do you guys think is the right balance in terms of Web3, in terms of putting that out there to the world? And how has your perspective on this particular decision shifted over the last 6 months? Who wants to start?
Sure, I can go if you want. The experience that we've had with the whole Web3 experience, when we jumped into it, it was a lot about tokenization, about crypto, etc. But where we have ended up is it's really about building a real business. And the fundamentals of business, they apply to Web3 just as much as to Web2. And I think the people that will be successful, the brands that will really lead the way will be the ones that really hone down on, regardless of what the underlying technology is, that there's got to be a product market fit, that it's got to achieve the end goal for the people that are going to be using your product.
So to what extent are you marketing that your sort of entertainment platform is Web3?
We started off with a heavy focus on, we're all about Web3. Now it's really about communicating to Web2 communities that this is something that they can leverage to actually succeed within the entertainment space, and that we offer them that platform to do that. So the end consumer, our customer, does not even need to know that this is Web3 at the end of the day.
Cool. Nelson, what about you?
Yeah, I think the past 6 months or the past year, so much has changed in this, in the NFT space, right, in the Web3 space. And I think the great thing, the positive thing is, the space is maturing. We are, as mentioned, it's all about sustainability, and it's about being able to monetize, create a business out of it, right? And the reason why I got into Web3 in the first place was I saw the potential and the possibilities in, in what I do, like in terms of art, in terms of culture, and combining with tech, right? And the possibilities and potential there is it's kind of endless, right? So I think we're kind of very early in the space, building the foundations, and we're kind of moving into the right direction, right? Going to the masses, right? Over the weekend, we had a toy convention that we showcased, a bit like Pudgy Penguins. We showcase our IPs, Ivy Boys and Hidong, in a pop toy show. If you guys know Pop Mart. And really got great response from the Web2 audience. And that's kind of like how we want to onboard the Web3 audience.
Well, and Lourens, you're working on a big activation right now, not too far from here. How have you sort of approached the marketing side of the blockchain Web3 NFT components to what you all do?
Yeah, so there's a few things. I think back in, outside of the activation, back in 2018, we have been producing figurines and we have been authenticating them on blockchain. And we're working together with a team of Nelson, Pudgy Penguins as well. And blockchain is for us a way to make sure that these products do not get counterfeited. So that's a long while ago. We've done some NFT projects and not bad, but I'll leave it up to Nelson to do it better than us. Now on our activation, we're working with a lot of IPs, one of them Stranger Things. So we brought an experience to Singapore, the Encounter, and essentially you buy an NFT ticket for the experience. And our vision is that working with all these IPs, we want to offer experience that start before, during, and after the event. And I think one thing that Web3 has brought to also the Web2 space is the need to offer more than just a ticket, offer more than just a one-time off. So I think that's very valuable also for consumers that are outside of the Web3 space. And yeah.
And Marta, your focus is luxury membership. We'll get into that a little bit more. But from the perspective of your demographics that you're targeting, how has that sort of shaped your approach to sort of the Web3 membership experience. You can go to your website, which I encourage people to do. It's really cool. And it does sort of say to connect, but otherwise I wouldn't know that this is a Web3 membership club, right? Was that intentional? Was that always how it was sort of done?
Yes, so I mean, when we launched our platform, it was a primarily almost 100% Web2 audience. We were in business for 2 years before we even started to explore integrating blockchain into our platform. So I think what was important for us was to have the on-ramps compatible for both audiences. So our Web2 members can sign up using their credit card for a number of different tiers of membership. And then we, of course, created this, process for the Web3 community to have a seamless user experience as well, which is connecting their wallet and using this NFT to unlock all of these token-gated privileges. But for us, what was really interesting was the decision to even start integrating blockchain was very organic. We went from being a public marketplace to a members-only model, and we wanted to start building our loyalty program, something obviously that every travel and hospitality membership in the world has. And when we were thinking about our partners giving us these very exclusive privileges that were for a select number of people, their first question was, well, how are you going to gate this? We can't give you a discount code, people will share it, we can't give private links, so what is the solution here? And from my understanding of blockchain at the time was, we can token gate it. We could have this digital asset backing all of our memberships, sometimes without the member even realizing, that would allow them to redeem all of these benefits with minimal friction. So, and that's been the case for us.
That's great. I want to give you credit for your boldness, because you had a traditional Web2 business and you took a risk there in terms of sort of creating this, token gated experience where a lot of companies would be, I guess, intimidated by the risk of what if this doesn't work. And I am kind of curious how that onboarding process has been for Web2 versus Web3 clientele or potential clientele. Luxury really doesn't have any borders. There's people in all sort of geographies and sort of that enjoy luxury, right? So what has the onboarding experience been? What's the recruiting experience been like? Is it more referral based, or is it more people find you online? Or are you doing some outbound marketing? And how is that sort of varied by those two audiences?
Well, really, it's a mix of everything you just described, which I think for any new startup in this environment, trying to service this very digitally savvy consumer, you have to be willing to integrate new technologies that build a more sustainable platform. So the integration of blockchain, we're not claiming we're a Web3 company, but this was the best technology at our disposal to build the most user-friendly membership experience. Same thing with using AI to kind of increase our product inventory. We can spin out hotel pages 500 at a time by just typing in the list of hotels that we want to be on the platform, and our backend will create a page for them. So again, just keeping in mind servicing the end customer. So if we wanted to appeal to both audiences, we had to kind of create that user experience that they expected. But I think for your question about how has it been referral versus outbound marketing, are we specifically trying to engage with Web3? I mean, again, that kind of all for us happened by accident. We were launching this membership either way. We were going to use blockchain to power it either way. But when we started thinking about releasing the membership program, Web3 was very much in the background, because we wanted to go to our existing database of 10,000 users who were all primarily Web2 and just say, look, it's going to be backed by this token and you won't have to keep track of discount codes or private links. And that all sounded really exciting. And then OpenSea got involved. And they were really excited about the real world use case that DayAway could prove out. So that's when Hype came and really pitching to this Web3 audience, and they got it right away.
Very cool. Yeah, there's a member of my team that helped build out the American Express Black Card program, and he constantly says that Web3 addresses real gaps in the rewards sort of gamification loyalty space that were not accessible beforehand, that you can do a lot more. So I appreciate your decision there. And I think that's really interesting for other Web2 companies that are trying to sort of maximize engagement, right? Nelson, you're also sort of intersecting with the luxury space. Have you had the same experience that luxury and Web3 go together well? And, or do you think that Web3 is appropriate for the broader market too? I'm just curious why or why not.
I think I'll bring out an example, right? Let's say someone like a community like Pudgy Penguins, right? I would say considerably in the Web3 space, the NFT space at least, their floor price is considered premium, right? But what Luca is doing is they're building real-world products in Web2, right? They are really, obviously going for mass adoption, and I think that's kind of the right channel. So I think in terms of where Web3 stay, whether it's premium or accessible, it really depends on what the brand is trying to achieve. So when Web3 came, this attracted such a wide audience, right? Whether you're in for collecting art or you're a trader. So I think Web3 offers a lot of a wide audience, but it's very important to be able to communicate the vision of what you are trying to do and attract the right audience into your community, so that you don't get distracted by people who are opinionated or people who are motivated by different things. And I think that's kind of, as founders, that's kind of what we really need to communicate constantly and be very consistent with that message.
Very cool. Yeah. I mean, if you go to the Pudgy Penguins website, which I encourage everyone to do, you don't see the word Web3 or blockchain anywhere. Like, every word is precisely around this brand that they've created. And the Instagram page is also very funny. There was recently a comic about someone that sort of took a power nap and woke up and realized it was like 2 a.m. And I was like, that's me. So they're definitely trying to relate to the broad market. And speaking of sort of that type of entertainment content, Riaz, like, you're building something really fascinating in the entertainment space. And I think that's a space that sort of has evolved and become more global. I was just in Seoul, as I mentioned, and, we all know about Parasite and how that sort of impacted the global entertainment market. And sort of Netflix is giving me a lot of choices of foreign content now that, we're not there a few years ago. How has sort of the globalization of entertainment sort of impacted the potential of using Web3 within the entertainment realm?
So globalization of entertainment, I have a couple of businesses also in Web2 as well, that what we have seen is now Korean content travels worldwide. Very soon language will not be a barrier, because with AI technology, dubbing, subtitling, all of that is going to become a breeze. So I think content will travel even more than ever before, and the monetization opportunities increase exponentially. What we are doing in Web3 is really building a platform that empowers creators, because the industry has been controlled by a handful of people for generations, literally. And creativity cannot be truly unleashed, and it's only a chosen few that actually get that opportunity to bring the ideas to life. And the opportunity that Web3 offers is literally the ability for anyone to say, I've got this amazing concept, and I can bring this to life through the community and give ownership to that community as well, so that everybody participates in the success of a film or TV project. And say the next Star Wars that's conceptualized, created, belongs to the people.
Let's dig a little deeper there. What are some of the mechanisms that can be used without sort of triggering the regulatory flags and whatnot, that you're able to sort of do with Web3?
So there's definitely regulatory challenges, of course, in what is security, what is not. There's different mechanisms by which we can reward people for ownership through staking, for example. And the way we envisage it is that by NFTs, you'd have ownership of a particular piece of IP, and that would give you staking rewards, and which are indirectly connected to the benefits from the success of that film or TV show. And plus also access as well, right? So behind the scenes access, meet and greets, and all kind of other rewards that you wouldn't get otherwise. And the concept is to create this powerful ecosystem whereby the creators and the community participate equally in the success of creative projects, and we decentralize that whole process, which is so heavily in the hands of literally 5 studios today.
Yeah, totally. I would draw some attention from the audience to Fox's new project, Crapopolis, the writer Dan Harmon, that's launching, I think, in September. If you own the chicken, you get special access to content, but your chicken also can lay eggs, and those eggs can be used to buy redeemable merchandise.
Yeah.
So you have a major studio based in Hollywood that's using blockchain in a revolutionary way that sounds like you're empowering others to do as well. That's really great. We'll talk a little bit more about that, but let's also hit on the merchandising side. Since we've covered collectibles, we've covered ticketing, we've covered luxury membership. I think merchandising is something that's inherently part of the conversation with all IP, right? And Lourens, you're doing that in some really creative ways. You showed me one particular activation, how you're doing that. I'd love to sort of understand what Web3 sort of brings to the table in terms of activations, collectibles, and to what degree it's attracting Web3 folks or Web2, and sort of how you look at that moving forward.
Yeah, so for us, it's not so much even about Web3 or Web2, to be fair. Our event is clearly targeted on the major audience. Our collectibles are targeted towards the collectors, and those collectors might not always be interested in the the Web3 space, right? So, but merchandising, I mean, that's the core of what we do. I mean, this is the Merlion I'm wearing, and we made this especially for this event. So for us, again, to offer that experience that goes beyond that just one purchase moment and go to that event and being able to offer additional merchandise, and as you mentioned, right, additional experiences behind the scenes. Things that we're considering as well. We have a lengthy process before one of our items comes to life. There's a lot of people involved within Mighty Jaxx, with the artists themselves, and to get the people involved with that process is something we're looking into as well. And I think definitely that's where Web3 can give you that early access, can give you that extra look into it.
Cool. So this is a broader question for all of you. I'm curious, what have you learned your audiences like, and what do they dislike, and how has that approach to engagement sort of been adjusted over time? Let's get into some nitty gritty of lessons learned here, because these broader conversations are fun, but some things don't work. They don't stick. What hasn't stuck, and sort of what have you done differently?
I mean, I can. People don't always like Web3, and our collectors don't always like Web3, and sometimes we think that. But by doing it in our case, right, we're even narrowing down the audience even to a smaller amount. So then for us, it doesn't become commercially viable again, right? So we have to bring it a bit more to the background.
Yeah, I can go next. Our holders like high floor price. I think that's a reality.
I don't think there's anyone that doesn't like high floor price in blockchain.
But I think seriously, like, because we've been in the space for 2 years, right? The holders that are still with us today, definitely we know what they are in for. When we started, my background's in fashion retail, right? I've been doing it for 18 years. And so when we got into the space, we thought of what value we can bring into Web3, which is leaning into our strengths in fashion, brick and mortar and distribution channels in the form of apparels. So when we launched our first NFTs, it all came with jackets, right? Physical jackets. And our goal is to be able to create avatars. When I came into the space, I didn't think of just doing, avatars or making it interoperable, right? I wanted it to be able to create garments that you can relate. A lot of NFTs were like, animals or things, right? But there wasn't a relatable character that you can personalize, right? So I think for us, it's really focusing on that. And after a year, people who are still around, they want that. They are asking, what are we releasing next? What's the next collection we are releasing? And so our brand promise at the very start, keeping it true to that. That's something our holders, beyond the speculation, beyond the floor price and trading, whoever that's still left, focus on that. That's our original, mission.
Well, I just spoke with Frank DeGods, and he said he learned that longer timelines that are more ambitious, that may slip, doesn't work as well for his audience as shorter, sort of smaller bites at the apple. Have you guys do you feel the same way in terms of how you're communicating expectations to your audience?
Yeah, typically what we find is the Web3 community, they want things like that, you know, and they're often less worried about what's actually happening with the business. They're focused more on the token price and other elements. And I think what we have had to learn is to say, let's not worry about all of those things. We're going to build a real product, and we'll communicate the real product to our community, which is what we have been doing. But doing it in shorter gaps is very important, because you can't be silent with these guys. They expect movement all the time.
Yeah.
Well, I could just add on something from our experience. I think for us, the hype was really a challenge. Like I mentioned earlier, we had thought to launch our first NFT with our initial Web2 community, not really needing them to know how it worked, but just how this would improve their user experience. And then when the hype came in and we attracted some attention from the broader Web3 community, we learned that as well, that the long-term play was not a priority for them. And so when we launched our token, we did something that we thought was quite interesting, is we offered a 90-day money-back guarantee. Because
I love that.
Yeah, what was really important to us, and for to protect the integrity of our partners, was that we didn't have people buying this as a speculative asset. We didn't want people that were looking to flip in a day, and before the mint was live, we must have said it 1 million times on Twitter Spaces, like, this is all about the utility. If the long-term roadmap is not attractive to you and what we're building, like, you're gonna be disappointed the next day after you buy this NFT. So we did do that, and we've been really encouraged to see that our community of holders, that again are a mix of this crypto native audience and Web2 community that have never purchased an NFT before, don't know how it works. We hold it for them in a custodial wallet and link it to their account. But they have their NFTs, they're using it, they're booking flights with it, they're booking hotel rooms, and that's why they'll keep it, and the floor price will stay high.
Have you considered adding perks the longer you hold your membership?
Yeah, well, so we did actually. For anyone that had held their token for 90 days, there were a number of new privileges that were released just to reward them. We had them in our back pocket the whole time, but we wanted to give them that thank you for believing in the project. And of course, the whole idea is over time, as DayAway grows into more markets, more partners, more privileges, they will benefit from all of that because their token represents a lifetime membership to our platform. Of course, the hope is on the back end that the value of that membership will rise over time, like a country club membership. And instead of selling it back to the club, you can sell it on these open marketplaces.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's this mix of surprise and delight with predictability, right? You can't just do one or the other. You kind of need to do both, and sort of, not to like Pavlovian in it, but essentially you need that predictability to some extent, but you also want that intrigue. So that makes sense. So Web3 offers a lot of co-creation capabilities, right? We talk about it all the time on the show, from like creating scripts together to designing collectibles together to creating perks in the membership. All of it is possible, but some people just want to like enjoy the benefits, and other people want to co-create, and maybe they want to co-create, but they don't want to get into the nitty-gritty, right? How have you all sort of leveraged the power of co-creation without sort of getting your audience to say, no more co-creation, please let me just enjoy the perks?
I think knowing what brings value to the community and the holders is very important. Like what really matters to them, right? So, and co-creation together with not just the community, but also, with partners like Mighty Jaxx, right? We co-created the, a physical vinyl, and we share the community, right? We expose each other's community, with Mandela as well, huge support from their event space, their membership, and with like Pudgy Penguins, for example, like we are 2 different IPs. They are penguins, we're a dog character. There's a lot of space for collaborations, and because our community wants that, right? They are they want the same things, and being very aware of what they want is very important, and not just throw it. There's a lot of distractions, right? As entrepreneurs, we always see opportunities, and sometimes those are distractions. So we gotta. It's the same as a business, right? Know what the customer wants.
Any other thoughts?
Well, co-creation is at the very heart of what we do, right? So essentially, we're empowering anyone to become a producer, to take part in creative projects that they would never be able to do through traditional Web2 mechanisms. So I think this is incredibly empowering for Web3 audiences, but also Web2 audiences that ultimately, if we make it a seamless process, then everybody can be part of that creative process.
And I would argue you're also enabling creators to increase their tentacles in terms of what they can do, right, as possible, because we live in a world where, at least in the US, writers are quite concerned about their livelihood. However, with platforms like this, a writer can be more than just a writer.
100%. And now the writer can dictate, this is how much I'm going to get. They're not having to fight for it every single day. And they can set the terms. And this is great for them, this is great for the actors, great for the community, great for the whole ecosystem. And I think this is where Web3 is really going to transform the industry. We're just at the very early onset of that.
Very cool. Before we close out, I'd love to go through a round robin with each of you in terms of one more quick piece of advice, summed up in a sentence or less, that our audience can take away for them. Lauren?
Yeah, for us, obviously, is don't focus too much, in our case, right? And don't focus too much on Web3 alone, focus on the product. And that's what I've been doing for all the years that I've been working. It's focusing on product. And if it's Web2, Web3, to me, it doesn't matter too much. It's about your audience, know what they want, and then create an awesome product.
Riaz?
It's a long road ahead. And just as we saw with the internet, it took quite a while for the real businesses to emerge and for it to become what it is today. I believe Web3 will do that and much, much more, but people need to be patient with it.
Great. Nelson?
I think something that's very important but very hard to do, which is to gut your peace, because the space can be very brutal. I think ultimately it's a great space to learn and grow and be open for collaborations and explore all possibilities.
And Marta?
I guess my advice to other startups out there is really start thinking about how you can use this technology to solve real operational friction in your business, provide real utility to your core community, and don't let hype distract.
That's great. And where can folks go to learn more about you and what you're doing?
For us, you can go to myDayAway.com.
Follow us on Twitter, BBRC Official, or myself, Mr. Gentle Ape.
Check out Ritestream.io.
For us, it's mightyjaxx.com, and just to plug a bit more, and FOMO, 1st of October, we're stopping with the Stranger Things event, so go to Bugis, 30% discount, please go by. Thanks.
Great. And for me, you guys can go to edgeof.xyz and edgeofnft.com is our podcast. I encourage you all to subscribe on Spotify or iTunes. In addition to that, we have an event called OtterEdge.live in LA, which is the intersection of culture and entertainment in Web3. We also have a new show that just started, Edge of AI, which you can also find on all those different platforms and sort of expands the conversation around this convergence of technology. Everyone, thank you so much for your time. This has been really incredible. I learned a lot, and thank you all for showing up for the first session of the day.